So we are a few weeks late covering this, but today we have gathered all five of us from last year. We are doing the year two in review of AEW, following up our predictions from last year to see how bad we were. Amazingly, all of us at least got something correct, so we weren't complete losers. So good on that. But back we have everybody. We have Dave Colarusso, Caleb Johnson, Darryl W. Perry, and Trae is back with us again. So welcome all of you. I think we'll just kind of wing it like last year. I'll try to direct traffic as much as possible. We'll try to use the chat as much as possible to move things forward. But let's get started just talking about what the overall feeling was for year two of AEW. And let's start it off with Dave, because we haven't had Dave on the show for quite a while.
I feel like they're really starting to hit a stride. There was a 7-week gap there where I was out in the desert doing a training course in the military, and I was upset every week that I wasn't going to be able to see it. But so yeah, I think they have a very strong fan base now. They beat NXT. Like NXT backed off and went to a different day. So I think it's been great.
And Caleb.
Yeah, I echo that sentiment 100%. I think that they've hit a huge stride. I think you already bring up a great point, is their crowds. Their crowds have been just hot, one hot crowd after another. And I remember back before AEW started watching a lot of WWE and thinking, week to week, how's this crowd going to be? How are they going to react to XYZ, right? Whatever happens. And the shows were clearly always better when they had a hot crowd. And now I watch Dynamite literally on a weekly basis, and I'm sitting here like, this crowd is so into this. Even if there's something they're kind of dead for, it's not because of the product itself. It's because maybe there's a weird match or it maybe, but for the most part, throughout the show, they're just hot, especially if there's a good match. And that just amplifies what they're doing and gives just a right there vocal, basically pat on the back and saying, hey, listen, we like this, right? You're doing what we like, and AEW is going with where the fans want to go. So I'm excited for where we're going from here. But yeah, I think it's been a great year in review, helped in no small part by the crowd.
Darryl.
I want to see more tournaments, but not have tournaments happen at the same time. Otherwise, I'm really happy with the product. I like how it's going.
And Trae.
Yeah, there have been, a few hiccups here and there, but for the most part, I've consistently enjoyed what they've been doing. And ever since, at least the touring schedule kind of started to normalize, on the coming out of the pandemic, the fact that we actually have crowds, I think it's just been consistently. Dynamite is so consistently good that on the occasion that they have an okay show, people act like the sky is falling.
Yeah, that's been an interesting thing, especially dealing with the ups and downs, especially lately because we've had some of the preemptions, and of course the big news is at least Dynamite is moving to TBS at the beginning of 2022. So there hopefully won't be dealing with preemptions like they have been over on TNT when it comes to baseball, hockey, NBA, all that fun stuff. So hopefully that'll fix stuff. And then when they've gone back to their normal time slot, the ratings have been kind of up and down a little bit. They were actually a little bit low this week. But it's like, okay, they've been in different time slots over the past month and a half, so
yeah,
kind of got to do something.
I think that people get way too worked up about week to week ratings increases and decreases. I think it's, I think it's better to look at long-term patterns. I don't see the point in just like I said, people acting like the sky is falling. Every at least once a month, and that's probably being very conservative.
Yeah. All right. So before we get any further, we're going to go into our predictions from last year to see how well we did. You're listening to the That's Wrestling podcast. If you're watching this as a podcast, we do this show live on Twitch and on YouTube. You can follow the links in the show notes and all the links to all the co-hosts or their Twitter, except for Dave. I put your podcast, but you haven't made a podcast for a while. So you're back.
It's about to come back.
Okay.
I just put it together.
All right. So you can find links to all the co-hosts in the show notes, and that's as far as we will go for that. So let's get into what we predicted last year and see what we got right. So the first prediction that came up, it was not during our prediction section, but Dave made it, and he said the next world champions, were going to be Kenny Omega, which came true. And that was it, because that's all we've had so far since then. But he also said Hangman would be next after that, and MJF or Pac would be after that. So I'm pretty sure we're going Hangman, so at least Dave is going to get Omega and probably Hangman. Darryl, it was not during the prediction section, and you changed your answer during the prediction section. It was going to be either Anna Jay or
of course I did.
Anna Jay or Penelope Ford for the women's champion. So we got both of those wrong. All right, so we'll get to our prediction section here. Darryl, you had Britt Baker or Penelope, so you changed it when we got to the prediction section. So Britt Baker or Penelope, so you got Britt. Darby for the TNT champion. Hangman for the world champion. And you got this one right. Lucha Bros as the tag champions.
Yes.
And I'd say you did pretty good on TNT because Darby was the TNT champion. And I think you're just...
Yeah, Darby had the title.
Yeah, you're just a month early on Hangman.
Yes.
Dave, you had your champions, and I think that was... then you had Chris Statlander as women's champion. And Private Party as tag champions.
Yeah, they seem to be doing really well in the Hardy family office. So I was really wrong on that one.
So I think the question was 1 year from now, right? At the end of year 2, where are we going to be?
Yeah.
Is that what I remember?
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, as it is right now, and we haven't had any change of champions since 4 weeks ago when we should have done this. so a little off on that one. Caleb, you had Jungle Boy as TNT champion. You had FTR with the tag titles on their second reign.
Oh gosh, I was so off.
You had Penelope.
Hold on, they do have. Hold on, the FTR does have the AAA titles, and they have the match against Lucha Bros coming up. So you might be off by just a little bit of time.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say because they've been tag team champions, so they are the first. I'm trying to figure out how this makes me right, but I guess they are holding their second championships, just not the AEW.
Yeah, because they were tag champions when we made these predictions, so you thought they were going to lose them, and then they get them back later. That's where that went. Penelope Ford for women's champion.
Why were we so high on Penelope Ford?
Because she had an awesome match with Hikaru Shida.
Oh, that's right.
Before, but Penelope also can't win the TBS women's title because she got knocked out of the bracket already.
Trae.
I was just thinking that like before the women's division started to really kind of they've come a long way this year, but this time last year it was looking like Penelope was one of the better options.
Yes.
That's a good point. No Serena Deeb, no Thunder Rosa.
You had MJF for world champion. And then, but hold on. You got some redemption here because you said it would be MJF would be world champion now after a short Hangman run after Hangman took it off Omega.
So that's something I wanted to bring up tonight is the fact because I kind of thought we were going to have a long, Jericho reign, a long Moxley reign, and then we were going to slowly start seeing these title changes a la WWE or New Japan, where things change a little more frequently. Kenny Omega has been champion for something like 340 days or something like that, right? Isn't it pretty close to, it's almost 365.
It's over 11 months, yeah, because it was like December 2nd, I think.
Right, so like I'll hold true to what I predicted. I think that's still going to happen, but apparently we are working on the long-term booking here because I fully expected him to lose at Revolution. I mean, like, I expected this sort of timeline to be much more compressed, and they're showing us, not to get off on a tangent, but they're showing us real commitment to the long-form storytelling and long championship reigns that mean something, to the point where, like, even Britt Baker at this point is like well established. I would have expected to see, you know, Sheeta back in the mix, or wherever her next challengers are, and we're starting to get to the point where I'm like, who's going to take this off of her? Like, and it's almost like I think they build your excitement for a championship switch, because at this point you feel satisfied with a long reign.
So
you want to know who's going to take it off of Britt Baker in 90 days? Nia Jax comes in and gives her a concussion, and
no.
She's
like,
just so
I put
you
your
know,
friends on the shelf. I'll put you on the shelf.
I don't want that to happen, but if Nia does come in under a new name, then it's Concussion City.
All right,
We
when
already
I'm
have Nyla Rose.
listening to this back for our 3-year review, that's the first thing that's going on the top of the page.
Oh, are we doing predictions for this? I didn't think of it.
Trae had Kenny Omega as world champion. He had the Young Bucks as tag champions, so just a little shy on that. They lost them. You had Cody on his 3rd or 4th TNT reign.
Yeah, I was wrong.
And you had Britt Baker as the women's champion.
Yeah.
So pretty decent there.
That was actually really close. Omega, Britt, and the Bucks just lost, so that was pretty good.
Pretty good. I had the Bucks as tag champions. I had Kenny Omega as world champion, losing at Full Gear coming up. So I said it'd be the Full Gear after our review show going into year 3. So I have that. I had Darby Allin for TNT champion, and then I totally bombed it on the women's, sort of. I have I had Eva Lisa's being the champion. That was before her shitty
She's no longer with the company.
That was before her really bad match, which but I had, after Britt Baker won it, with a short babyface Penelope Ford run. So
Listen, Penelope Ford, man.
we were all high on Penelope Ford last year. Then I
think Trae brings up a good point, though, is that at that time it was like, who else do we want to see in that top picture? Because we were kind of like sitting there like, what's the worst, the best of the worst here, essentially.
Yeah.
And to AEW's credit, the women's division has come a far way.
Yes. Then we had some other kind of funny predictions. We had, was the world title going to change on an episode of Dynamite? Myself and Trae said no, but they should. And then the other 3 of you said yes, and it happened. So
yes.
And then
really soon after too.
Yeah,
it was very close.
Yeah. Then we had if there was, but it never happened, if there were trios champions. Darryl said it would be SCU or Jurassic Express. Caleb, myself, and Dave all said Kingston and Lucha Bros. And Trae said it would come down to Death Triangle versus Eddie, Butcher, and Blade. So, unfortunately, trios titles never came to pass. But I think we're going to predict those this year again, because I'm still holding out hope for that. And we had
Super Click.
Yeah. I was actually thinking that earlier, the trios titles, who would I pick this year? Like, yeah, I think it's Super Click.
And then we had Forbidden Door prediction on who would show up. Dave had Kota Ibushi. Myself and Darryl didn't say anybody specific, but thought somebody at least would come from New Japan. And Trae and Caleb had David Finlay. So we did okay.
Well, David Finlay did go through the Forbidden Door. It was just to Impact.
Yep. So
let's also acknowledge, though, that I mean that happened, right? Like we were saying, like, is someone gonna come? Should they come? And I mean, we freaking had Kenta, man. Like that was cool, right? So
Yeah,
I mean, we got part of the way there.
That door ain't forbidden anymore.
yeah.
No.
So we did okay in our predictions, not awful, and some of us were just
All right,
early.
and let me just say that I don't think anybody expected Moxley to be the GCW World Champion, or for Suzuki to go on like an American tour and actually have a match in GCW.
Or
And
for Matt
several.
to be a deathmatch king for Matt Cardona and play an incredible heel.
Yeah.
Or that
that's-
Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa were going to have one of the best matches of the year, and it was going to be a hardcore match.
Yeah.
See,
Or that we
I-
would have a freaking death match with Nick Gage on Dynamite.
that we would see a pizza cutter and then they go to picture in picture and it's a Domino's commercial.
So
that was the high point of the year.
that happened.
And people tweeting Domino's like, oh, how could you sponsor these guys?
All right, so let's move on to talking about where the titles have gone. When we did the show last, it was FTR had the Tag Team Championship. They lost a couple weeks later after we did the show to the Young Bucks in November, and the Young Bucks almost made it through, but they lost it September 5th to the Lucha Bros in a crazy steel cage match, which was nuts. But overall, I think kind of the biggest reign there, we had the Young Bucks through the whole thing. They turned heel. So we had heel Bucks, and then we got heel Omega tying in with them. So the heel Elite, we had the Good Brothers with them. Overall, how do you think the tag picture has gone through this year? And we'll start it off with Trae on this one.
Great, man. The Young Bucks had an incredible reign. Just kind of looking like 9 defenses. I think they tied with Hangman and Kenny Omega for most tag title defenses. So the record is still 9. They lost to the Lucha Brothers, and I actually rewatched that match last night, and it was freaking incredible, that cage match. It seems like recently the booking of title matches has slowed down a lot from what it has been, and I think that I would have, like, you don't want too many title matches, but I feel like there should be about I don't want to say twice as many, but like a third as many title matches as there are lately. But, things are gonna, like, the thing is, between I think their shortest window between pay-per-views is typically the one between All Out and Full Gear, and they clearly have had destinations for Full Gear, so I'm not really, I guess I just want to make the statement without seeming like I'm complaining about it, but tag titles were, the Young Bucks had an incredible reign, and then so far so good with the Lucha Bros, and I expect a great match with FTR at the pay-per-view, so I say thumbs up for the booking of the tag titles.
Caleb, thoughts on the tag?
Totally think that the tag division has just been strengthened. All the more, I think that we're really, we kind of joked around, I think, partly in jest and partly serious, I guess, when AEW really first started forming, that they were poaching some of the best tag teams from New Japan, from other places. Not just poaching, but I guess they were collecting, in a sense. They were collecting great tag teams. And I think that that's continued. Specifically with the titles, I loved the Bucks run. I look back and I kind of have some complaints, to be honest, with the FTR, winning them off of FTR. They said they'd never challenge for the title again. I was like, I didn't think that was necessary. They were also really riding this weird line between heel and face. Like maybe someone wanted to turn heel, but maybe Tony Khan said, no, not right now. I don't know what the dynamics there were. What I know that is, while they had the titles, they became some of my favorite / most hated heels in the business during that reign. Like the fact that like their hair slowly started getting longer and weird facial piercings and like the weirdest like onesie outfits, like that was what I wish they would have done, like, but started just a little sooner with FTR and really start getting that really narcissistic attitude and like just go full heel when they won the titles. I would have liked that a little bit sooner, but I can't complain. The Bucks were one of my favorite things to watch on the show week to week while they had the titles. Their pairing with Omega was just fantastic. All of them just with egos to the moon. So I really, really enjoyed the booking of the tag team titles. I think that the Lucha Bros make a fantastic team too. And I was just looking back at the list of champions for tag team champions. We're on our 3rd world champion, but we're only on our 5th tag champion. You had SCU, Hangman and Kenny, obviously, FTR, the Bucks, and now the Lucha Bros, which is a recent change. So they seem to be consistent with their title changes. Sure, it's a little bit more for like, the women's and the for the tag team belts, but I still like that we're giving these belts some importance and some, establishment. And it's really been the place, AEW that is, where tag team wrestling is not only respected, but kind of promoted, put on the forefront. Big tag matches go on last sometimes. And I appreciate that. It doesn't always have to be, I know I'm not exactly a traditionalist, but I don't think that the world title always has to go on last. I think a title should go on, but like the tag team belts going on main event, that's awesome. And I really appreciate AEW's take on those belts.
Darryl.
Yeah, I can't really add anything to what's already been said. I think they're doing overall a really good job with the booking, not just of the tag scene, but also the upper card, the mid card, and by mid card, I'm including the TNT title and the soon-to-be TBS title. I am, however, curious, speaking of tag belts, will we see a women's tag title be introduced in the next year?
No, I don't think so.
No, I don't either.
Dave shaking his head.
I found it a little bit quizzical that, they did the TBS title instead of that. I still... Like we've talked about, the women's division is so much stronger than it was a year ago. I am still, I still need to be convinced that they have the depth for multiple championships in the women's division.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think it's too early. I think it's still too early for the TBS championship. And it would definitely be too early for a women's tag championship because I don't think they have the depth, and they don't really have too many female groups at the moment. Not even like the big factions don't even have any female members in them. So we don't have a female member in the Elite or the Inner Circle. We have one female member in Best Friends, if you can call them a faction or just a loosely. Yeah, no one's in the Pinnacle. So
they're friends.
Yeah.
There's
I'd
two
like
women
that
in Dark
intergender.
Order.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That would be interesting. I was going to say there's 2 women in Dark Order, or at least associated with, because I don't know if Ty Conti ever got fully introduced or inducted, and then Britt Baker has sort of her stable. There's some sort of, I don't know if it's alliance or whatever it is between Nyla and
Jade.
Jade. I was drawing a blank on her name and was just about to say that bitch because that's what she calls herself. So, there's already sort of a bit of some teams. They just don't really do too many female tag matches.
Yeah.
I actually have always been a fan of the intergender factions, having like China along with like DX and that sort of thing. To me, I love that. But the only issue I think becomes is like if you want to incorporate the women's championship or TBS championship into the faction, if you want to mix those two things, every faction kind of needs to have a female or a couple. And now it kind of feels like everyone just needs a female member. So like the elite, they'd kind of have to shoehorn in somebody, right? Like every group would walk around with one woman or a couple women. And now it kind of feels a little bit more contrived. Where right now, I think the state of it as it is, like with Anna Jay and Ty Conti hanging out with Dark Order, well, Anna Jay for sure, Ty Conti sort of. I think that's very organic the way it exists right now. Chris Stanton and best friends are friends. Like it feels pretty organic. And in order to have more women in the faction system, which again I'm a fan of, it would feel inorganic if you ask me.
HFO has the bunny.
Yeah, that's and like Penelope is also like kind of like she's not a member of HFO, but she's partners with the bunny. And like I was thinking, kind of like what you were getting at, I'd more favor. You have like some of the factions. Like the regular male factions have a female member or two, and then maybe you have, and I don't know, AEW has a lot of factions, but I think maybe like one, two, maybe three all-female factions.
Yeah. Like we don't need Adam Cole to join Britt Baker's DMD collective or whatever it is.
No. That's true. But the other thing about having women's tag belts is that it does offer a little bit more time for more women, right? To get them more experience, even if you're doing women's tag matches on Dark, right? Like that's multiple women involved in a match getting that experience, because I think that we see some of the best on Dynamite. But when you think about it, like there are quite a few women there who are still learning. They're still getting their feet under them, or, maybe the folks who have been taken off of TV, not to offend anybody, but maybe a Red Velvet, right? Someone who's not on as much because she's still getting that experience. So women's tag belts gives more experience, but I just don't think that we're at the place where we can really go for that yet.
Yeah, and there's also things like AEW they tend to, lay a lot of groundwork and not just do things. You can see like clearly for a long time they were laying the groundwork to introduce trios titles. Maybe they're like slowly like on Dark and stuff, kind of lately they've been having, more women's tag matches, and you can just have, two women start to team up and develop a team like the way that, like Nyla Rose and Emi Sakura have on Dark recently. And there's like a lot of interesting things that you could do. And like, just for example, something that I'd like to see, Diamante and Kiara Hogan are, in a relationship in real life, and like that's something like everybody was so into that Kota Ibushi Kenny Omega story in part because of the possible implications that there's a romantic element. Like that's something that I think would be interesting to see play out in wrestling. Have like people who are openly in a romantic relationship also as tag partners, and see how that plays into the story.
Dave, you want to touch on anything with a tag, or do we want to move on?
Yeah, I agree with the fact that there's not enough depth with the women's to make a tag team one, because they kind of put their toe in the water a little bit. You could see Tay Conti and Anna Jay kind of starting to pair up in the other factions. But I do have one bummer of a qualm when it comes to the changing of the hands for the tag title belts. I understand you need to get the belts off of Omega and Hangman to get them to the Young Bucks, but I wouldn't have used FTR because they just felt like a placeholder when it's like, oh man, FTR is an AEW, this is going to be amazing. Like, they held it for like, what, 2 months? Like, that sucks. No.
Yeah, it was clearly like it was A, to transition the belts, and B, to get to that FTR and Young Bucks dream match. And it just like, I feel like FTR are going to eventually get another title reign that will be like, I don't think that that one reign was their definitive tag title reign.
Yeah, not at all. FTR, they will get it back, and I loved the Young Bucks as heels. They were absolute D-bags, and they did it so well. But you could have put almost anyone else in there in the FTR role. You could put like Jurassic Express or any other super baby faces in, have them lose it tragically to the Young Bucks being D-bags, and then FTR still looks, untouchable.
Yeah.
But after that, I kind of felt like FTR really lost a little bit of shine.
Yes,
Yeah,
I agree with you
not
on that
wrong.
one. Yeah. All right, let's move on to and let's to kind of speed things up. Drop in our private chat if you have something to talk about on the particular topic, and I will get to you. And if not, then we'll just move on to the next topic. So let's talk about the next championship, and that we did talk about it a bit, but that being the women's title, and we went basically it was Hikaru Shida was the champion last year, and Britt Baker, she held it for just over a year, 372 days. And Britt Baker took her off her at Double or Nothing this year. So I guess thoughts on Hikaru Shida's reign overall, even though all of it was through the pandemic. Basically, there was no full houses. Double or Nothing had a crowd, but it's still like just that tail end there. And then Britt Baker has had it since then. And how do you think we're going? Dave, you want to touch on this one?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Hikaru Shida's amazing. Like, she carried the AEW women's division through the pandemic, in my opinion, especially with the lack of a crowd, because she's a legitimate badass. Britt Baker's fantastic as a heel, awesome as a heel, and at this point I'm just scratching my head. I'm like, what good guy is gonna take off of her? I have my own personal hopes, but if you were to give me like hey, you need to name somebody who can actually reasonably do it right now, I'm like, I have no idea.
Caleb?
I'll answer that for you. Thunder Rosa. she's my favorite. Honestly, she's my favorite female wrestler currently. My favorite wrestler. I'm talking in ring. My favorite in ring right now is Thunder Rosa. Britt Baker is probably my favorite. Just everything when you take it all into consideration. I went back last night and I watched the promo where she really came out of her shell, and it was with her and Tony Schiavone in Houston or Austin. I can't remember. Texas. And they were definitely in Texas one way or another. And she comes out there, and the first half of the promo, like, she's talking about how she removed, I think it was Shida, she, like, removed her tooth and how it was rotted and decayed. And she did her a favor by removing her molar. And, like, because she's all dentisty. And I'm like, and you can just kind of tell for this first half of the promo, it's kind of, yeah. And she's starting to get these boos. And she takes the mic from Tony, and she walks out there and she's like, I'm seeing confusion in your chubby Whataburger faces. And then that moment, like, Britt Baker was made. Since then, she's been my favorite female personality in wrestling, honestly. So I really like the way that they're taking the women's belt right now. I think that they're really starting to have more elements of character and really like the motivations there. Her and Thunder Rosa having that incredible, hardcore match, I think really helped put her even more so on the map, and just she was a legend. I mean, Mick Foley was tweeting her afterwards like, that was the greatest thing I've ever seen. He loved it. I'll give huge props, honestly. Don't want to blow past Hikaru Shida. Obviously, she did huge work with that through the pandemic, like you said. Also, let's not forget, by the way, that AEW, like most of year 2, was through the pandemic. And the greatest thing that I can say about what they did through that period was it wasn't that noticeable. Like, They obviously reduced crowds. It was huge difference and stuff, but they put enough people down there who were, masked and tested around the ring to just make some noise, right? And the product barely suffered. Like, it was noticeable from the shows that they taped in Atlanta. But beyond that, once they were back in Daly's place, I forgot sometimes that I was, we were experiencing such crazy in the world, because I would watch Dynamite and think, this is still a really good wrestling product. So huge props to the company as a whole, but Shida as well. My only complaint with the Shida reign is I just felt like she wasn't on TV much. Like, she would come out for big defenses here and there, on a pay-per-view or maybe on a certain episode of Dynamite. But I thought she was a great defender of the belt. But when I look at her reign, I don't remember as much personally. Like, she didn't do a ton of interviews. Like, I wanted to see more of that. But I think that, it's headed in a great direction. I'm so excited for the state of the women's division. Not that it's going to be, the very best right now, but we're moving in the right direction by miles and miles. And I think we can credit people like Thunder Rosa and Serena Deeb for working with these women and just totally improving the state of it.
Trae.
Yeah, Sheeta's reign I thought was very, very good. And, you make some good points there. Not a lot of personality work. I think, but maybe the concern there was that, I don't know, she wasn't comfortable or they wasn't comfortable with her English. But, if you look, her English has slowly, steadily gotten better over the course of, time. And I don't know, some of it was silly, the little angle with Abaddon where she had to pretend to be scared of Abaddon. That was a little dumb.
Yeah, that hurt her.
But as far as somebody who is a great wrestler carrying the championship and really, I felt like, to me, her being the third champion, following Riho, following Nyla Rose's kind of pre-frame, I felt like she was the one who really established that as okay, yeah, this is the women's world championship. And
that's a great point.
It's the same with Moxley. Somebody had to be the person to carry the belt through the pandemic. And it was a hard job, and she did it. And I just think, I think she deserves all the credit in the world for her title reign. And Britt has just been, I think we all knew it. And going back to last year, Britt was going to be the future. We have watched her grow from someone who was very inexperienced to someone who was a very confident, she's a superstar now, and it's just indisputable. So, yeah, I think as far as this has been a year of strengthening and solidifying and really establishing the women's division.
Yeah, there's one thing you talked about. Actually, this is something we talked about last year, was because Hikaru Shida was already champ for 6 months by the time we did that show. So we already had a good handle on what they were doing, and they never improved it, where we had talked about, okay, it's not a big deal, just have her cut promos in Japanese and subtitle them after. If you can do all these pre-tapes, and that's the same thing we complained about with Riho as well. They wouldn't do all these pre-tapes. She could have just done them in Japanese, and they could have just subtitled it. It would have been fine. That's what they do in every other sport where the person they're interviewing does not speak English. They just tape it and subtitle it afterwards. Not a big deal. But that was kind of the thing. And then, of course,
you could also give her a sort of a translator. The same way that the Lucha Bros have Alex Abrahantes now, where Penta says whatever it is that Penta says, and Alex gives you the Cliff Notes version, because sometimes Penta says paragraphs and Alex says a sentence.
Or sometimes Penta says really bad words that Alex can't repeat on TV.
Also that, and I have to say that I really like sort of the direction that Sheeta's character has taken since losing the title, where she got the haircut. She now wears, in the backstage area, she wears the suits. So it reminds me almost of like a Yakuza boss. I don't know if that's what they're going for, but it's just so cool seeing a wrestler wearing the tailored suit behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I actually want to comment on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that, in my opinion, because that's something that I've actually thought about. I think that our first all-women's faction should be Hikaru Shida Yakuza Boss and her mercenaries, basically. That is my opinion. I love the suit, especially just the white with like a fresh pop of color, and she looks great. She's out there, and I just think that's where we should go, is her as the clearly defined leader and just taking people out. I'm trying to think of who we could add to that. I'd like to see a more serious Ty Conti, honestly, be a part of that as well. I think that she wears a lot of Brazilian colored stuff, and her theme music is just like, hey, look at me, I'm from another country. And I just think we could take her character somewhere as well, make her a little bit more serious, turn her heel, and I don't know who else, but like that's where I would love to see Shida go, because the Yakuza boss. What about a heel Thunder Rosa? That works too. Yeah, women who wear suits and kick butt.
I think that she should be like the boss for, like, they kind of cycle in. They have different women from, Tokyo Joshi Pro and Seed Leaning and a couple of the other Japanese promotions that they've kind of had come in for little runs and here and there. Like, I like the idea of, Shida as the boss who's bringing in, somebody like Mei Saruga's in right now, or whoever they're going to bring. I actually really based mainly on that phenomenal pay-per-view match she had with Shida, Ryo Mizunami, which is, it's weird, but like, you can do it. You can make it work. You can have kind of an evil boss just directing people who are, just take that and do something with it.
Yeah.
And going back to Britt Baker, several people mentioned about her lights out match with Thunder Rosa. Just remember, Britt lost that match, but like in losing the match, she just got elevated so much higher than what she was.
That's such a good point, because until you just said that, I'd forgotten. Like, Britt Baker's what I remember from that match, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. She took like some of the worst spots, but she lost. Like, well said. Also, I don't know if I'll get a chance to say this again, but it was mentioned earlier. Love Alex Abrahantes. I like Penta Says. I just think Penta Says is one of the best, like, little diamonds. You know what I mean? It's not something that takes more than 10 seconds, but whenever they're on TV and he goes, Penta Says, I lose it.
Yeah, it was totally one of those little accidents that Penta was on Spanish commentary that night when I forget whoever it was
Cody.
Was it Cody? Yeah, it was Cody. He was addressing Penta, and Alex translated for him. It just went from there. It was like one of those little. They probably had no idea to keep Alex with him, but it just worked out so well. He's such a good hype man. I love him.
And one of those things, if you were watching like Dark and stuff, last year, like, they were clearly building to Alex Abrahantes being like a secret member of the Dark Order. And then the Dark Order turned babyface, and they dropped that, and then he got like this spot that's just so much better. So that was, for him from that perspective, a fortunate turn of events.
All right, let's move on to the TNT Championship. We had a interesting year regarding that. We had Cody Rhodes took it off of Brodie Lee. So Cody Rhodes was champion when we did the show last year. A couple weeks later after the show, Darby Allin snagged it from him at Full Gear, and Darby Allin lost it to Miro in May, and Miro just lost it to Sammy Guevara a month and a half ago. And within that, because it happened later, we didn't know at the time. When we did the show last time, Brodie Lee was not in good shape. He was in the hospital probably when we were doing that show. He probably would have gone in probably that week is when he went into the hospital, and then passed away at the end of December. So that was just kind of a big event there regarding that whole situation. So TNT title has it's short, but it's already a very storied lineage, and everybody, kind of looks fondly back at some of the, especially the matches that have taken place in this. But I think Darby Allin's reign was a little disappointing, because it just kind of got tied up with Sting for the most part and really went nowhere until he lost it to Miro. So let's talk on that. Trae, you want to touch on the TNT title first?
Yeah, Darby's reign, it kind of got off to kind of a slow start because he was tied up in that interminable feud with Team Taz that he won the title on November 7th, did not defend it until January. I have January 7th here, but I think that was a taping, so it would have been the week after. But then after that, he started having really frequent defenses, and actually, as of now, he has the record at 9 for most TNT title defenses. Cody's first reign and Miro's reign has 8 apiece, but Darby has 9. And it was I thought it came out pretty good, and then just when they announced the match with Miro, I think we're all like, oh my god, Miro's going to win the title and it's going to rule. And Miro won the title and it ruled. Miro's reign was just so phenomenal. And you and I, we talked about this on some of the review shows that we did, that Miro this year was as good as Miro last year was bad, right? And even with what we're building toward now, that him after having lost the title and being God's forsaken champion, and now he's on the climb toward a possible world championship match. But his TNT title reign was just phenomenal, and I wasn't ready for it to end. Sammy winning the title was cool and great, and it made sense and it worked. But in my heart, I would have liked to see Miro just keep killing fuckers in TNT title matches for a while. But I don't know. I also have to give overall the booking of the TNT Championship the past year a thumbs up.
All right, we'll go to Dave. If you hear some screeching, we have a 8-week-old puppy that we just picked up yesterday. So he is screeching right now. So that's what that is. No one's getting hurt. He's just not happy of being in his playpen right now. Dave, why don't you take it away on the TNT Championship?
Actually, yeah, I totally agree. I think Miro was awesome. I love Sammy Guevara, but Miro should have held it longer just because he was so good. And I guess I kind of get what he was trying to do last year with the gamer and the Yeezys, and the Redeemer and his hot wife thing was so awesome. And but yet, I mean, don't get me wrong, I have nothing against the guy. I don't get Darby Allin. I think I don't know if he's for kids or I just don't care. But so when Miro beat him, I was actually pretty happy. But yeah, I think I would have liked to see Miro hold it longer. Also, question: if they're going to TBS, what happens to the title?
Rampage is staying on TNT.
Ah,
yep.
As I was.
That was a question when they were both going to move, but they decided to keep Rampage on TNT because it probably wouldn't get moved anyways at 10 o'clock on a Friday night. So, I mean, they already had a crap time slot, so nothing's going to be in that crap time slot anyway. So,
but also, what happens when TNT explode? TNT and Dynamite are basically the same. It's two words for the same thing. So even if both were to move to TBS, TNT would still kind of fit as a name, not to mention that they're owned by the same company.
I didn't know that.
And I see that Eric is muted.
Yes, I was talking to my wife.
Yeah, and they're still going to do the Clash of the Champions type specials on TNT as well.
Mm-hmm. Caleb, TNT.
TNT, man. No Jungle Boy, as per my predictions, so I'm upset about that. But I think that, what I've come to learn in the last year is that Jungle Boy is a slow burn. He will get there. He'll be TNT champion. He'll be world champion. But that is going to take the next 10 years. This kid's he's a child, basically. He's so young. I'm disgustingly young because I think I'm almost 30. And I look back at some of the ages of some of these guys Jungle Boy and MJF and, the 4 pillars. I look at the 4 pillars of this company. I'm just I'm an old man. But anyway, I'll tell you what. I was not ready for Miro to lose that title. And I understand in the moment, that's like one of these things where it's like in the moment, in the night of, like, yes, Sammy winning was a great idea, popped the crowd, beautiful moment. But like now he comes out with that and I'm sad. I'm like, I wish it was Miro still. And I know Miro's going on to do good things. But like the TNT Championship allowed, I think, AEW and the powers that be to look at him and go, you know what? This guy is world championship material. Because when he came from, WWE, he was, I don't want to say he was a job guy, because he certainly got himself and Miro Day and all that. He got a lot of that over, but like he wasn't given any sort of the respect that I think he deserves there. And he came here to AEW and they put him in this, and they, I mean, I'm sure him and Kip Sabian were both enthralled to be video game guys, but like it was just not the right fit for him. And now, well, I say now, his reign was something that I think allowed whoever's in creative, Tony Khan, to look at this guy and go, oh, he can hold the world championship. Absolutely. And he's just so creative. I think he comes up with a lot of this hot wife stuff and, the God's forsaken champion, like God's favorite champion. He comes up with this stuff. And like, he's got such a great knack, because when he delivers it, it's him. It's genuine. He just says, as it comes to his mind. He's had a couple lines, and I'm trying to remember them specifically. But he had one line, like when he lost, it was one of his first promos when he lost. And just, it was so quotable. Like, you just sat there and like listened to what he had to say. And he's just fantastic. So I really am sad that he lost the championship. Overall, I think the TNT Championship has also had, thumbs up. I pretty much give thumbs up across the board in their booking of the championships. Most of what I have problems with AEW is away from the championship scenes, which I appreciate. Like, they put some of their best stuff with the belts. So really upset that Miro is no longer champion. That's my takeaway.
Yeah, I have to agree with you that Miro, I wanted him to be champion longer, but now that he's lost it, he's done some of his promos in the past couple of weeks have been some of my favorite of his, just because now he's all pissed off and it's doing great.
The thing is, like, I loved him killing Orange on Dynamite. I am so excited. Like, I'm sure that they wrestled in WWE, but I don't remember it. But, like, the fact that it's going to be the Redeemer against the American Dragon at Full Gear, like, holy shit, that sounds amazing. And then I think you and I talked about this on a review podcast that we did, Eric. Like, I think that Miro would be phenomenal to... I actually think he should win that match and be Hangman's first challenger and be like, Hangman should win, but I think that would be a very awesome, very violent fight.
Yeah.
Imagine Miro taking apart the Dark Order.
Darryl, I don't think you've talked on this one yet.
I haven't, and I've got lots of thoughts. One of my thoughts here might be very controversial, and I don't mean any disrespect when I say this, but I think that the vibe that I'm getting from Miro is like he actually wants to fight God to redeem himself, and I think that if AEW had a match that was Miro versus God, and Miro had, basically an Invisible Man match, it would be very good, and it would not be done the same way as when Vince McMahon wrestled God that one time, and it was absolutely the drizzling shits. But, like, I honestly believe that Miro wants to wrestle God to be able to redeem himself to then be worthy to hold a championship again.
All right.
Can I throw something in here? Because I've just had an idea when you said that. Do you remember a very well-known moment in WWE history when CM Punk looked at Paul Levesque and said, "Your arms are too short to box with God"? What if we got straight edge, holy God representing CM Punk and had a Punk versus Miro match?
I have a better idea.
I'd like that better than the Invisible Man, because as much as I'm non-traditionalist, like me and Jim Cornette are just rolling. Like, I can't take an Invisible Man match in my proper pro wrestling company.
Yeah, I agree with that. But listen, I am in favor of Miro fighting God, if by God we mean Kota Ibushi.
That works too. All right, let's go to the world.
Miro has wrestled Bryan Danielson exactly once in a singles match. It was May of 2018 on SmackDown, and Miro got the victory.
AEW World Championship. We've only had one title change since we last talked. Jon Moxley held it until about a month and a half after the review show last year to Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega is now sitting at 341 days as champion. Going into actually just starting off with the tournament that got him to the title shot, him destroying Sonny Kiss in 3 seconds with that smug look on his face, that solidified we're getting Kenny Omega back, the Kenny Omega we were looking for, and I think we pretty much got Kenny Omega we were looking for. Caleb, you want to touch on this one first?
Sure. Yeah, to all of the people who said, and I thought it, I don't think I ever said it. We could go back and look at the review shows. I don't think I ever said it. I thought it. But there were a lot of people who said, oh, this isn't Kenny Omega. This isn't what we signed up for. This guy sucks. Like, he doesn't suck, but he was just having, like, great 3.5, 4-star matches. He was fine. And, like, you know, that first few months, even first year of AEW, it was like, yeah, you know, Kenny Omega. If we haven't gotten the Kenny Omega that you know and love this year, like, I don't know what to tell you. This has been the greatest, my favorite reign of the 3 reigns so far for World Heavyweight Championship, period. And the fact that he's got the Bucks with him, who, as I already mentioned, turned into such smarmy heels and have been, you know, at his right hand this whole time. I think that this has been, bar none, my favorite part of Dynamite, which I think is great because it's your world championship, right? It's your number 1A title. And it's been the most must-see part of the show, in my opinion, is whatever Kenny Omega's doing, usually with the Bucks set aside. And can we highlight for a second Don Callis? Dude, Don Callis has been out of this world. And I was coming from a guy who was not as familiar with him pre-AEW. Like, I kind of knew him as it relates to New Japan and Impact, but he has been just a marvel, and he's taken what is already, like, he's already a good promo. I like Kenny Omega, but, like, he's just taken him to a whole nother level as his kind of manager. The title change was, you know, in that perfect vein of, like, because he wasn't quite yet to that point. He was kind of like a heel who didn't know he was a heel yet. And then when he whapped him with the microphone, like, you knew it was on. And this has been the best year for the World Championship. And I mean, I say that you can only pick 2, right? There's only been 2 years of AEW, but by a mile. Absolutely fantastic. I love what they're doing with it. As I've already mentioned, I like the length of the reigns, even though I didn't expect it. I really didn't expect them to continue this trend of such long reigns, but this is our longest one so far. We're almost at a year, and it's just been fantastic in my opinion. So I'm glad with the direction they're going, the respect they're putting on the belt, and most importantly, I think Kenny Omega, because we've just finally gotten him in all his glory. Really doing what he does best, and I fully expect and want him to lose next week.
Dave, thoughts on the World Championship?
I think it's been fantastic. So I'm an extremely lapsed fan. I watched during the Attitude Era, and I didn't start again until probably about early 2018. So I didn't know Kenny Omega, and I didn't watch NJPW. And right now, I love Kenny Omega and exactly what he's doing right now. And I don't want to see him lose because he's so good, but they've done such a good job of putting Hangman Adam Page as the sympathetic babyface. I want to see Kenny Omega lose to him. But I've absolutely loved watching it. Week after week, Kenny Omega crushing it, especially when he was collecting the belts like Thanos. That was awesome.
Yeah. There's. I guess we do have to touch on a few of the interesting spots of the reign. One, we had a match that no one really wanted at All Out, and that was versus Christian Cage for the title. But they did have that match on Rampage for the Impact title that kind of made me want to see the follow-up match. And then we had the debacle of the exploding barbed wire death match. We got to remember those two happened.
No, we didn't. What are you talking about? What?
Remember that?
The exploding what? What exploded?
You also have to remember that the night after he lost the TNA Impact title to Christian, he had the AAA match against Andrade down in Mexico. So Kenny still has 2 belts. He's still Kenny 2 belts, but no balls. Yeah, I want to see him lose against Hangman, and I had totally forgotten that Kenny kicked Sonny Kiss out of Dynamite forever, permanently onto Dark. I was thinking, like, I don't recall having seen Sonny Kiss on Dynamite, and I went to Pro Fight DB, and sure enough, every match that Sonny Kiss has had since October 21st of 2020 has been on either Dark or Dark Elevation, with the lone exception of a match against Ricky Starks on Jericho's Rockin' Wrestling Rager at Sea.
Wasn't it really supposed to be Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss replaced him?
Yes.
Okay.
So Joey was injured in a GCW show, I think, right before. No. He had a COVID exposure from a GCW
I was just about to
show.
say, I think it was COVID exposure. I don't know if he tested positive, but they said that he had been around people.
Yeah.
And to be fair, Sonny Kiss losing did give us for a little while for that Kenny Omega's face as a meme.
Yes. And Trae, you want to finish it up on the world champion?
Yeah, so this is just probably a matter of taste, but I as world championship reigns, I like Moxley's reign the best, because I don't know, I'm just Moxley guy. He's just completely crazy and reminds me of Terry Funk, and that endears him very much to me. And the same thing that I said about the tag title is my biggest problem here is that I think I would have liked a couple more title defenses. And I'm looking, so Kenny won the title December 2nd. Defended the title once in January, once in March, once in April, once in May, once in June, once in September. It has been, so there have been like 2-month gaps between title defenses, which is, I watch New Japan, so I'm kind of used to that. But when it comes to the AEW title, I would like just a little bit more. Okay, Moxley was champion for, I guess, like 9-10 months. And in the time that he was champion, he defended the title 9 times. Kenny's been the champion 11 months, has had 6 title defenses, and one of those was in Impact.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that match.
I think everybody forgets about that match, but yeah,
because nobody saw that match.
The match where he won the Impact title was in fact a title versus title match.
Yeah. So yeah, I have to. I think I did like Moxley's reign more because of that, but I like Kenny's character. And even after Moxley lost the title, Moxley's character has been great. He's teamed up with Eddie Kingston, and the two of them are like 2 of the best promos in the business. So those have been gold from them. And now Mad Daddy Moxley is just like gold.
Yeah, and Kenny's whole reign, like, it's been good television. it's not all stuff that is really to my taste. So maybe I don't like it quite as much, but like just kind of objectively speaking, it has been good television. The character stuff has been, and again, good, little iffy for me, some of the content, but I am really greatly looking forward to Unhinged, not the champion anymore, Kenny Omega, that we're going to get here very soon.
Dave, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, just on the John Moxley thing, and just to show you the crowds of AEW being awesome, when he stopped doing that violence whatever theme and he went to Wild thing, but there was still no crowds. We were kind of like, what's going on here? And then the crowds were back and we were like, oh yeah, this.
I have so you guys saw him before we started recording, but I've got a 17-month-old kiddo, and I always tell him he's wild. I was like, you're wild. And then one day I was like, and I went over to our TV and I streamed Wild Thing, and I just turned it up real loud in the living room, and he's in there like doing his thing. He was so happy, and I was like, this is your new theme song. So I think Wild Thing, again, AEW's, actually I didn't mention it before, but a good point. AEW's willingness to get licensed music for their people, like Jungle Boy got a new theme. They're kind of sort of using Flight of the Valkyries remixed for Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, sorry.
Watch your filthy mouth.
Shame.
Yeah, watch my mouth.
It's okay, JR. It's okay.
But now I feel like JR. Great. The WWE Championship next. But yeah, I appreciate their willingness to do that for sure. I can totally see what you guys are saying about Moxley's reign. One thing I also liked about Moxley's reign is that he finished off guys in like a variety of ways. He had obviously the Death Rider / Paradigm Shift. But he also had like some submission game, so he really changed it up. But it's because of the character work that I give, honestly, Kenny Omega the edge. I just think, and Trae, I can see where you're coming from, but I really like some of the choices, like some of the weirder stuff, like sillier stuff they've done, the Ghostbusters outfit, the Space Jam entrance versus Dark Order. That's the part of me that, like, honestly, because he's so good and so serious in the ring and just kills people, like, I'll give him a little bit of goofy because that's a part of his character too. Like, he's got this weird, I don't know, to me it doesn't cross that video game Miro line. It's on this side of that line, and I'm okay with it. So there have been some choices that are you're totally right, but personally, I'm down. And as an aside, that 5-on-5 match was one of my favorites. I go back and watch that on YouTube sometimes just if I'm bored. When the Dark Order came out, but they were all in their cowboy stuff.
Yes. Oh my god, that was amazing. Just speaking about the finishing holds for the world title matches, since I'm looking at it right now. So Jericho actually, he had 3 defenses. All 3 defenses were by Walls of Jericho. Omega's had 6. 5 were by the One-Winged Angel, and 1 was he won the 3-way at Double or Nothing with the Crucifix hold. Moxley's 9 defenses. Let's see. 3 were by Paradigm Shift. 1 by Rear Naked Choke. 1 by Armbar. 1 by Crucifix hold, and 3 by Bulldog Choke.
Yeah, that's a cool champion right there, in my opinion.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Anything else you guys want to touch on before we move on? No? All right. Let's talk about something we talked about last year. Something that they, I think, are still lacking and need to work on, and that is the lack of recaps. At the beginning of the show, we do not get a recap of what happened ever. And like, if you're new and coming into this, you're gonna have no idea what's coming up because you have not been clued into anything, and I think that's a problem. Trae, obviously you have an opinion on this one.
Yeah, it's not like the dark days of TNA, the To the Back. It's not that bad, but a lot of the time the show moves too fast, and it's not that. Typically, I would say the things that need time to breathe are given time to breathe, but sometimes, and I think is what you're getting at, they don't do enough to reinforce some things.
Anybody else have anything on this one?
Yeah. Every now and then they'll do like the inset promo during somebody's entrance, and every now and then they do like a brief little video package as somebody, is coming out for a thing, or as they're doing on Rampage now, the triple split screen segment before the main event. Like, they could very easily do like 30-second, 1 minute recap packages before certain matches to let you know like why these two people are fighting. Or just let Excalibur explain shit to us while the match is happening, because he's really good at telling us that, Samurai Del Sol has, fought all over the world or whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm actually okay with a little bit less recaps because, to your point, Darryl, great point, especially Excalibur and to some extent also Tony Schiavone, they're really good at, like, as the match begins, giving you that background and filling you in. And you're like, okay, yeah, I can see why this is happening. What I don't like is that we're still getting some of the best promos in this company on Twitter. Like, that's what drives me nuts. I'm like, can't you find 30 seconds or a minute of TV time to just put this on your show? Like, you need to showcase these guys just a little bit more. And I think some of the best stuff that they do gets relegated to YouTube, to social media, or if it is on television, like you said, it's inset. It's like, here they come out to the ring. Here's our entrance, and here's a promo that might kind of be quiet because the audio is, we're leveling it up. Like, that bothers me. Like, just dedicate a minute and put someone's, really good promo on TV. I think we're getting there. We're definitely seeing more. I thought that the Kingston and Punk thing the other day was great. I really liked that moment with Schiavone where he gets interrupted. It felt very believable. I was like, okay. And that's actually, for me, that's going to be the best thing so far with Punk. Since he's gotten there, is him and Kingston. I think that's almost like the first moment that I'm really, really excited to see him in a match, is him and Kingston. But I just think that they can do that stuff a little bit better.
Yeah, that actually came up to my next topic here is that there has been less call-outs to shoulder content, but not a complete abandonment of it. And still we're getting some call-outs to external content that is not explained
like
enough.
The Budge thing.
Exactly. We talked about that this week. Like, what the hell is John Silver talking about? Because I missed an episode.
I remember where I saw it now. Like, I didn't even watch the entire thing of BTE. There was like a clip put up on Twitter of John Silver talking to Adam Cole, telling him he should shave his head and call himself Budge.
Yeah. Any other examples that people could think of that were just like way out in the past year where it's like, I have no idea what they're talking about?
I understand the lawnmower reference at first. I had lapsed on BTE, but once I got it explained, I thought it was very funny. But I'm still like, you should have said something about this, like on your television show, because Hangman shows up with a riding mower and like all of the Dark Order riding on it to get ice cream, and I'm like, that was hilarious. I don't understand.
No, nothing else. See, that's I guess that's a good thing because they've lowered the going out to the shoulder content, so I guess that's a plus.
I was very amused at the YouTube YouTube channel of the John Silver Adam Cole clips was titled "Who Won the Battle of the Budge?" That tickled me.
Dave, you had something.
So I think out of the five of us, you probably could say I'm the most casual fan. Like, I don't watch a lot of BT, I don't watch Dark, but I'm high on Rampage and Dynamite. So I think I have the solution for all of our issues, because I didn't understand the lawnmower thing at first. Is what you do is you take Dynamite and Rampage, you add on 1 or 2 hours, you go to monthly pay-per-views, maybe we'll have Miro fighting Invisible God, being facetious.
All right. I just lost my screen here. What was my next topic here? Oh, okay. So one thing that was added this year is we now have another hour of TV programming, and that being Rampage. started on August 12th, I believe it was. And the other problem of Dark has not gone back to what Dark was before the pandemic. And I think that's a problem because basically now Rampage is what Dark used to be pre-pandemic.
Yeah,
There's another Dark.
And there's another Dark.
Okay, there is another Dark that I think is more of what Dark was destined to become before the pandemic. And then there is Rampage that is what Dark was before the pandemic, except like it's great. We talked about it's just such an easy show to watch. I love what Dark has become because and Tony Khan has said this, that what he's going for is like 90s WCW worldwide, which is like, I love that shit. Like, I love C shows with just random ass matches. Like, so Dark is Dark is for people like me who love that kind of shit.
Caleb, thoughts on adding Rampage?
Sorry, Mike's muted.
There you go.
I was just typing response to you, and my keyboard goes clack, 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 clack. So, I think that it's been, a huge ad. I think it's phenomenal. I think that they've got a new. I like the new canvas. It says Rampage on it. It's it's got a different. I want to say it's got a different feel because they do certain things like those tri-window, before the main event. There are certain things that they do to set Rampage apart. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate the fact that there's just an extra hour of TV to put more things on. And it doesn't feel like a chore because it's only an hour long. So watching Rampage is like easy. It's not like I can sit down. To be honest, I've tried to keep up with the product, overall. I can watch Rampage more regular, like when it's on. I catch that more often because on a Wednesday night, I have a church thing on Wednesday nights. I get home, I put the kid to bed, and like sometimes you catch some of Dynamite, and then throughout the week you're kind of watching clips or you're doing whatever. Rampage is easy. Like Rampage is on late. He's already in bed. It's 1 hour. There it is, and it's more digestible, honestly, to me. I love the format. I like the time. Everything about it. My only complaint, I think, is that I just think they could do even more to set it apart. I think that it could have it's not a brand split. I understand it's not Raw and SmackDown. Like this one's red, this one's blue. Like I don't think we need to go that far. But like I think that we could have some unique things that makes it more of a destination. You want to make that not just your third hour of Dynamite, but you want to make like, hey, you should watch Rampage because there's actually some different motivations or reasons for doing so. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, it's a clear positive, I think, for the company. It's a sign of faith in the company. And I think they're taking it and running with it. CM Punk, obviously, Rampage gave us the CM Punk return that, like, we haven't even talked about that much tonight, but like CM Punk's back in wrestling, like after years, right? Like, and he did it on Rampage, and Rampage did a crazy number. So, I mean, I think that, we're really in the green here with Rampage.
Dave, what do you think about adding Rampage?
If you didn't say it, I was going to say it. If you dislike Rampage, watch the CM Punk. That's 17 to 20 minutes, whatever that was. But the only thing, man, they got to change that time. Like, I'm in San Diego. It comes on at 7 for me. What do I care? But, like, you guys are on the East Coast. I don't envy you having to wait until 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Especially, like, CM Punk's going to come. You're like, I have to stay awake until 10, be focused, get all hyped up, and then somehow convince my body to go to bed. Yeah.
Yeah, Rampage has been difficult for me because I have pretty much... I think I've maybe watched half of them live, and then the half of them I watched. I haven't even watched Rampage this week yet because we picked up our puppy yesterday, so I was driving all day yesterday, and then I was doing this today. So,
now you got to get on that parent schedule because that's bedtime. That's daddy time. Like I get to do what I want at 10 o'clock.
See, I'm in Central Time, so it's 9 o'clock for me. And I don't know. I like it because it reminds me of when I was, first starting to become a wrestling fan. That Friday night at 9 o'clock, that was ECW on TNN time. So, it's cool for me.
Darryl, what's your thoughts on Rampage?
Yeah, I like it. I'm sort of in the same boat as you, Eric, where like half the time I'll watch it live. Most of the time I'll watch it the next morning. I had a thing to do yesterday. I've not watched it yet. But apparently Eddie Kingston, I did see that Eddie Kingston and CM Punk have got a match scheduled for Full Gear. So I'll probably watch that tomorrow between classes. But yeah, I like it. Half the time I forget that it's taped because like they do such a good job in presenting it. There was one time when Fight forgot to add in the commercial breaks. And it just like ran. Oh, we'll be back in 90 seconds, and then boom, they're back. It's like, oh wow, I wish they did this all the time.
Yeah, I know.
But other than that, it's really digestible. The theme song, though, I think runs a little too long. But other than that, I've got no complaints about Rampage.
The actual length of the song is too short. It just repeats and repeats and repeats during that commercial on Fight. It's really annoying. Dave?
This is Rampage,
If you only
baby.
have an hour, if you only have an hour, come on, let's cut it down. But if you haven't seen it yet, that Eddie Kingston CM Punk segment, good stuff.
All right.
Yeah.
Very, very good stuff.
Let's go to a topic that is tough to cover, but that is the passing of Brodie Lee. I think AEW probably did one of the best, if not the best, tribute show to anybody ever. And this is one of the things that was cited by, CM Punk, and I believe Bryan Danielson has also mentioned it as well, that the locker room keeping the situation quiet was a big factor in CM Punk coming over to AEW eventually. Bryan Danielson had things to say about it as well. Very sad situation for the whole thing. I think they handled it correctly, and kind of bummed because I really love Brodie Lee and I was really looking forward to the following year. But it is what it is. Anybody want to talk about this one? Dave?
Yeah, I got it. I was super stressed out when that was occurring because I was moving from Mississippi to San Diego. So I'm super stressed. I'm in a hotel in Shreveport, Louisiana, and I was watching that tribute show. I probably cried about 5 times. Pretty much every time the Dark Order won, especially John Silver and Colt Cabana. I was a mess. I'd say if you had to rate tribute shows, which I don't want to do, but I'd say number 2 would probably be Owen Hart, but number 1 is Brodie Lee.
Yeah, I have to say, my wife does not watch wrestling, and I just happened to be watching that episode in bed on the TV in the living room, and she was just on her computer, and she started crying in spots, even though she didn't know him, doesn't know anything about him, but just saw all the video packages and all that stuff. It was a pretty emotional night, and I think they definitely did right by how they did it, and especially now we have -1, who has basically been already signed to AEW.
Yes. So, I mean, -1, man, when he first started, I was like, not to, be a downer on top of a downer, but at first I was like, yeah, okay, -1. I just didn't really like that introduction. But he's grown on me, first of all. But more importantly, I think he's grown on the AEW locker room. I feel like he's everyone's adopted kid. And he's really, really great. He threw papers at someone. And when he threw papers, I was so happy. But yeah, it was one of the best, probably the best tribute. And just an honoring, honestly, of his life. The video package that they played at the end of that show was just made me weep. And beyond, also having Eric Redbeard on there,
yes,
or Eric Rowan, that when he came out, like they were still like doing an angle, and I was like, oh, it's nice. Like I was so happy. So that was huge. I mean, but folks can go back and watch our review show, which I was on that show, and I mean, it was hard for us to talk about it at some points. So it's just a real life tragedy that they dealt with in like the most, like the best way, honestly, like because they could have gone a lot of ways with that, and people with a little bit more of a carny mindset might have taken that a different way. And I mean, for crying out loud, Moxley turned heel on Roman Reigns the night he announced he had leukemia. So like, I don't trust other companies with that sort of stuff. And when I saw that, I was just like, I was in awe. Like that's the amazing kind of thing that a company that actually cares about people can really put out. It was so touching.
Yeah, and now since that,
it also
Trae go, and then we'll go to Darryl.
Yeah, I don't want to regurgitate what you guys have already said about the emotional, just how emotional that show was. That's all true. I wanted to comment on what and Caleb already kind of said it, but AEW has proven to be like really, really great at having like guest spots and sort of reminding you, because I think this is something that, I don't know, people just, it was always a thing in wrestling for years and years, and then just for the past couple of decades with exclusive contracts, it hasn't been just the guest spot that someone's just in to do a thing and then they're gone. That Eric Redbeard spot was so phenomenal, and it was in that match where, like, you know, clearly like they needed a save, and it felt like, you know, normally that would have been a great spot for a Brodie save, and he's not there. But then, my God, there is Eric Redbeard, and then that was just such a beautiful moment. And I don't know, there's so much that has related to and been involved with, and not to sort of minimalize any of the really important stuff, just something that I seem to have this thought at least like once every week or so, is that I'll be watching New Japan and I'll be thinking about how good Brodie was like showing that he was going to be, and I'm like, fuck, Brodie in the G1, like how fucking amazing would that have been?
Yeah. Darryl.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think the way they did the tribute show, and then what Tony Khan and I'm assuming his family, in addition to AEW, the company, what they've done for Brodie's widow and kids just shows what sort of person Tony Khan is and what kind of company he's running, where, you know, like, that family's being taken care of. When you look at people that have worked for WWE, somebody mentioned earlier the Owen Hart tribute, like Owen Hart's widow is persona non grata in Stamford, Connecticut, because she has been critical of the way that company has treated her family, you know, like all of Owen's brothers, cousins, whatnot that worked for the company. Yeah, I think that AEW has done right by everybody in that horrible situation. And then knowing that -1 helped book the card for the tribute show just makes it that much more special.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that came out with that. If you listen to Amanda on the Unrestricted podcast, she was talking about the whole situation. Cody drove as soon as he heard from Atlanta to their house. Big E, who is obviously not with AEW, but he drove to their house. So Cody and Big E were there when they broke the news that his dad had passed away, because those are his two favorite people. So they just drop everything to do that. So big on both of them. And now talking about Owen Hart, now they're honoring Owen Hart in AEW because Martha trusts Tony Khan to do it correctly. So Dave is looking at me like he has no idea what I'm talking about.
I know, I have no idea what you're talking about.
There is going to be a Owen Hart Memorial Tournament in AEW, and they've teamed up with AEW for Owen's foundation and whatnot. Also, as of the couple weeks ago, Amanda Huber, Brodie Lee's widow, has been hired by AEW. She is now on the community outreach team, so she's got a job there now as well. So yeah,
I believe Owen Hart is also going to be a playable character when their video game releases.
yes,
Yeah.
That's part of the integration there, is that you'll be able to have, you know, Omega versus Owen Hart matches, which is pretty sweet. One thing to note too, one thing to note also about you know, Mr. Brodie Lee's passing was the retirement of the original TNT title belt. The, you know, the red strap, that design is now basically memorialized. I believe they presented the belt to -1, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And they redesigned, which, silver lining, they were able to redesign that belt because I didn't like that red strap. So it looks a lot better now, but also it was just, I know that's not why they did it. They gave it to him, you know, as a sign, because he was the definitive TNT champion up to that time.
Yeah, and this kind of plays into what we're talking about, how, I mean, it's such a breath of fresh air. It seems like we're blowing smoke at this point for Tony Khan and whatnot, but just how AEW has handled various situations with so much more class than we've been used to in the past 30 years in wrestling. I mean, we just had another situation just this past week with Jon Moxley having to pull out, deciding to go rehab, and right away the company's like, you do what you got to do, which is perfectly fine, even if we have to scramble to rebook stuff. You know, everybody's completely in support, and they didn't take some sort of weird advantage of it. CM Punk mentioned it in his promo, but it was a very positive message out of that. You didn't turn it into a negative. And everybody's super supportive, and that's just something we just have not been used to seeing in a company at this level, and it's just strange. Dave?
I think to wrap it up, the best way to phrase it is that for the last 30 years, one company in Stamford has been in the money business. The Khans and the EVPs at AEW are the people business.
It seems that way, yes. So far.
Yeah.
So far, that it is that way, even if it doesn't seem that way. All right.
Yeah, how many people got released from that company in Stamford this week, right after they announced their Q3 earnings with like the highest quarterly profit ever or something?
Yeah. So there's that.
Budget cuts.
Yes.
On that topic, real quick, and I've got to head out. My kiddo is headed to bed, and his room's right there, so I can't be talking too long. I'm going to head out here in a second. But I have to say, New Japan released their earnings, and they made, like, I think they said they made, what was it, like $60,000 over the course of the pandemic? Like 60 grand. Like, that's like one person's annual income. But they didn't release anybody. And they, you know, they fired their $1 million president. They got a new replacement, which, I mean, that was a good choice anyway. But they made like $60K. And WWE in one quarter made $250 million. And then we're like, but actually, over the course of the last year, they've released 140, I think was the number. That's nuts.
Yeah,
I gotta tell you this, though. AEW does not need to hire all of them. Like, AEW, if you're listening to this, please don't hire all those people. You don't need Karrion Kross, and you might need Keith Lee.
You need Keith Lee.
You need Keith Lee. You don't need everybody else, and you need to cool it with the spending. If I had to leave a message for AEW, and that's, as I walk out here, that is my last piece I want to say. And I know I've given my predictions to Eric, and he'll go ahead and give those to me when the time comes, or he'll give them to you guys. But my last thing is, I love the influx of talent into AEW, because even people like Bryan Danielson, who was in a great position and could have stayed with that company and been champion, because there are guys who leave that company. Aleister Black was never going to be champion, I don't think. Andrade was never going to be champion. Bryan Danielson was gonna be again, and he went, no, I'm not staying here. I'm leaving, and he's proven how good he is over the past, however many months. So I really appreciate AEW taking talent, and it's not like, oh, they were just a job guy in WWE and we're going to make him our world champion. It's no, these people, all they needed was a little spark, a Malachi Black. Andrade, honestly, of all of them, he's been my least favorite. I just feel like he hasn't changed as much. But like Adam Cole, just the folks who CM Punk obviously coming back, like AEW has proven itself. We're not just here for the short term. Like, we're here to stay, and we're going to bring in the caliber of stars that are, our competition's champions. Like an NXT champion, multiple NXT champions.
Dude,
and
Bryan
the former
Danielson
NXT champion and Adam Cole coming in. Like, that's huge moves. When he came out at All Out, I was over the moon, but I was also like, these guys are starting to show the audience that this isn't just like, hey, we're going to go there and get our retirement check. It's not just Big Show, and it's not just Mark Henry. It's guys who are in their prime who actually have opportunity to become future world champions. And they said, no, we're going to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
Bryan Danielson main evented WrestleMania this year.
That's insane. That's bonkers.
Yeah.
Like,
all right, I'm going to take off for the kiddo purposes.
Wasn't Christian also on Mania this year?
That's good.
Yes, he was.
So we're gonna head right into that topic, and that is signings, and that is big signings that AEW has done over the past year, and some of them might not seem big, or it really depends on who you ask, because we have guys like Andrade that was just mentioned, Malachi Black. Those are two guys, at least in my opinion, perfect guys to pick up because they are huge. And they were no-brainers in my eyes, though if you talk to some other people, that might not be, because if they only watched WWE and not even NXT, they would be like, why are they bringing in these guys? And then you have guys like Miro, who got picked up last year, but now showing his worth that, okay, he was definitely the right thing to pick up. And then we have, of course, the big ones, main eventers, CM Punk coming back after 7 years, Bryan Danielson saying no to the money at WWE and saying yes to going to AEW, Adam Cole doing the same thing. And then we had a few interesting debuts and signings that kind of fell flat. Christian Cage has kind of been at least in my opinion, okay, but it was definitely played up higher than it should have been. And then we had the bringing in of Sting. That was a big one that happened right, into our second year here. So, why don't we talk about some of the signings? Trae, you want to talk about those first?
Well, the one that popped into my mind when you mentioned like guys who maybe would be perceived as not a big deal, that they were, NXT job guys. Okay, like a year ago, if you put a gun to my head, I could not have told you which one was Ever and which one was Rise. But 2.0, like, holy shit, those guys have been great. And they went from, like, in the span of a month, they went from job guys on NXT to freaking, like, working with John Moxley and Sting. And I was at the Dynamite in Houston when they had the match with Darby and Sting. That was, like, so freaking phenomenal. And see, the thing is, Sting's deal, he's got, he's old and has like medical issues. They are not like putting Sting in there to do matches with guys that they don't think are safe. And like those guys, it just immediately, it was like night and day. And just, that was the thing that really showed me how much better AEW is at utilizing talent.
I mean, even looking at Bryan Danielson, of course, we know he's an excellent wrestler. He had good matches in WWE, but he's had some of the best matches in AEW. The 5 matches he's had in AEW have been some of the best matches ever in AEW, which is just bonkers that this would happen. So I gotta, at least the graphic that we're using today for this episode, there's a bunch of new people on it. So coming in, though she was early, but then has now come back. Jamie Hayter is in. Ethan Page, Serena Deeb is now full time. Leo Rush just joined. Then we have 2.0. Danny Garcia, Bobby Fish, Thunder Rosa is full time signee now. Christian, Ruby Soho. We haven't even touched on her. That was like a huge one. Malachi.
Yeah.
Malachi, Andrade, Sting, Adam Cole, CM Punk, and Bryan Danielson. I mean, those are like huge gets.
Kara Hogan,
yep.
Jade, not huge gets, but also like added. Kara Hogan, Jade. That I know me and Eric aren't really big on. I'm not sure about the other two.
Dave has a thing for
it.
Big fan.
Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, I was going to say, like they've added a lot of people. I think the one get that they had, and I realize it's been more than the last year. Matt Sydal, like when he came out as the Joker, like everybody was like, "Holy crap, Matt Sydal is here." He slipped on the slippery turnbuckle, and then it never really went up.
Right.
Like he's sort of just like there. I am intrigued by that storyline that's going on now, where it's sort of Matt Sydal beefing with Leo Rush, with Dante Martin being like the plaything in the middle that they're using to fight with.
Yeah, I'm curious where this is going to go.
I actually think that Matt Sydal has been like pretty well used, and actually probably maybe better used than I would have guessed he would have been when he came in. This because I didn't expect him to be, somebody you're going to strap the rocket to. I thought, okay, like this guy is a reliable, not selfish veteran that you can have to build the guys that you are focusing on from the future. And from that angle, I think that Matt Sydal has been very well used in AEW.
All right, so let's talk about some of these people specifically. Let's start off with which kind of going in order from when we recorded. I think kind of the first person to debut was Christian Cage. I think he was at Full Gear last year, right?
No, he was at Revolution.
Oh, was he? Okay. So, close enough. Sting was actually before him. But let's talk about Christian. I think that one was a little bit overhyped for what we got. Now, I've said plenty of times I'm a bigger fan of Christian than Edge. I always thought Christian was the better of the two of them, even though Edge ended up getting to higher status. But so I was fine with him coming in, though I think it was a little bit a little overhyped for who it actually was. But it was interesting that he comes in. Oh yeah, he was at the Royal Rumble, so he was in the Royal Rumble, and then he comes into AEW.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on paper, he's 2-time WWE World Champion, couple times TNA World Champion. Like, I don't know. I thought that he was sort of appropriately hyped, and that I don't know. Again, I guess I just seeing the way that they have utilized the people that they have brought in. It's kind of similar to what I said about Matt Sydal. That's a guy that he's a veteran. Like, he is not there to be the top guy now. He is a veteran that is there to build your guys for the future. And like, it's pretty clear he's there, like he's the guy that's gonna make Jungle Boy in a year or so. But still, like, so many people were down on the idea of, you know, Kenny and Christian at All Out, and I wasn't, because like I knew, and again, I'm also a Christian over Edge guy 100%. And just when that Rampage match happened, like my thought was, I think I tweeted, apologize, because like that showed you that Christian still has a lot to give, and just he's being used judiciously. And he had his, you know, he also had a nice little run in Impact. He had the All Out match with Omega was really great, and I also think, you know, Christian was a good get that has been well used.
Dave or Darryl want to touch on Christian?
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think he came in, did some main event stuff, and now he's here to put over the young guys who are going to be the future, i.e. Jungle Boy. Yeah, I'm cool with it, because like Edge is awesome, but Christian was better.
I think Christian probably would have been a better fit going back full time to Impact, and then making the sporadic appearance on AEW. Just, you know, since he had so much history there, but yeah, might have been a little overhyped, but used how he should be used.
Another one that came in early, Sting. Huge surprise at Winter is Coming. Same show that Kenny Omega won the title. He comes out, ends up being buddy with Darby Allin, still buddy with Darby Allin a year later. I think it was nice the first couple weeks. I think Sting started to get a bit old after being on the show every single week. I think it started to lose its specialness, and now he's just kind of there. We did have the fun cinematic match with Team Taz, which I thought was great. And then he does return live in the ring for a few matches since then, against Men of the Year and then against 2.0. So he's getting in the ring, and those matches have been fine. So, but at this point, Sting is just kind of, he's not as special as he used to be, I don't think.
I don't remember, it was either Trae or Darryl came up with the acronym WISH. Why is Sting here? His debut was amazing. That debut was fantastic. Top 5, probably top 3. And it was cool to have him around, but I think they leaned in too hard on the legacy. I'm not saying I don't care, but I kind of don't care.
I just had an idea for another cinematic match. This one, Sting versus Matt Hardy at the Hardy compound. Have it be a Lake of Reincarnation match where Matt Hardy throws Sting into the Lake of Reincarnation. He comes out as Surfer Sting and then literally just surfs away.
Sure, why not?
Works for me.
I'm going to go ahead and be the contrarian again. Because I was like, okay, what are they going to do with Sting? And then when I saw what they were doing with Sting, I was like, oh, okay, that works for me. And I don't know. I think it's just expectations that are kind of based on WWE domination of the marketplace for so many years. And it's always been that, you know, if somebody famous isn't in like an ultra highly featured spot, it's a waste of them. I don't think that's the case. I think that having Sting around as the veteran legend who is in AEW, happy to be here, and he kind of has he's the mentor for one of the pillars that you're building the future around. I think it's good to have, guys like Sting around to be in that position, and I think that I don't know. I would have
Trae, I want to agree with you where it's good to have him in that mentor role, but when he was just like making appearances for no reason other than Sting is on the show.
I agree. I do agree with that.
But yeah, I also kind of like how they've got Arn Anderson as sort of one of those, old man mentors.
Yeah,
They've got Tully Blanchard as an old man mentor. They've got Sting as an old man mentor. They need another old man mentor to sort of round out the Four Horsemen connection from the 80s to now.
Sid.
No, he broke his leg, and he had to get shot, because that's what you do when somebody breaks their leg. Oh wait, that's a horse. I'm sorry.
Let's talk about let's talk about the incoming as a group here of Thunder Rosa, Serena Deeb being full time now, and the big get, I think, being Ruby Soho. She gets kicked to the curb. She comes in at All Out. She is obviously the Joker. Everybody is cheering her new name, which is Ruby Soho instead of Ruby Riott, before the countdown is even over. Huge response. I think, again, here's another wrestler who was floundering over in WWE, but everybody knew how good she was and was waiting for her to be able to go do something better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people were probably expecting, after she was the Joker and then won the Casino Battle Royale, oh, well, obviously she's going to win the women's title. I think they need to give her the TBS title. Like, she should be the first TBS champion. And let her have a lengthy reign with that. And at some point, she does a title versus title match or whatever against whoever the women's world champion is. And that's how she elevates from sort of the mid-card champ to the world champ.
That is actually one thing I wish they added for both the TNT Championship and the TBS, that after you hold it for a certain amount of time, you can vacate it for a world title shot.
I just want to go on the record as saying that I hate that shit.
Really?
Like, I don't like the idea of, like, I feel like those titles should be a goal in of themselves and not just, something that you're trying to. Yeah, I just don't like that. I don't like using titles that way.
All right. We can agree to disagree on that one. But I do agree with you on Ruby. I think should be the first TBS champion. I'm not sure if she's going to be, but I'm hoping.
I third that motion too.
And I'm hoping it comes down to Ruby and Thunder Rosa in the finals.
Yeah, looking at the bracket, it would be either Thunder Rosa, or I'm assuming Jade is going to beat the Bunny. That's who is facing Jade, right? The Bunny. It's either the Bunny or Red Velvet fights Jade.
No, it's
Red Velvet.
Yeah, to not spoil, but spoil Rampage for those of you that haven't seen it yet. It is Red Velvet.
Okay. I couldn't remember when that match happened or was supposed to have happened or happened in the future. I don't know, but yeah, hopefully Jade does not continue on undefeated to get the TBS title.
Yeah, I think it would be great to see Ruby and Thunder Rosa in the finals, because that was the end of that match as well, right? It was Ruby and Thunder Rosa at the end. So I think it'd be great to have them face it off again. And of course, we've left out, but she's had some of the best matches this year in the women's division. Serena Deeb, she had that great match as actually on the buy-in for Double or Nothing, which was excellent. And then she's had 2 excellent matches in a row with Hikaru Shida here when Shida's going after her 50th win, and she's kind of turned heel here. But solid matches out of her. And of course, Jamie Hayter making her return full-time to AEW after basically she got stuck in the UK when the pandemic started.
Yeah, see, I think that, whoever's going to be the TBS champion needs to be a great in-ring wrestler, and that disqualifies Jade.
Just a little, yeah. Another, I forget which order these two came in. We have Malachi Black and Andrade coming in. Malachi Black making a huge splash. When he showed up, everybody knew who he was. Everybody knew he was Tommy End because that's what everybody was chanting. But he has this, whatever, we still haven't been clued in on this persona of Malachi Black, though we know it is a split personality sort of on Tommy End. He is still Tommy End technically, but this is a some sort of alter ego that he is within. So we got him and Andrade coming in. Again, he was one that was floundering quite a lot in WWE, and he comes in here. A little bit of a rocky start, but he has had some of the best matches in AEW over the past couple months. Him against Pac was excellent. And now I'm spacing on the other really good match that he had. That'll come to me, but anyways, thoughts?
I don't know, but when Andrade brought out Chavo, and like they were supposed to be heel, and Chavo's like facing it up to the crowd, I'm glad there was the whole whatever it was with Chavo and the iPad, where Chavo got like kicked out of Andrade's group, and then of course, screwing around with the travel plans of Pac and the Lucha Bros has been it's made for some really good backstage promo work.
Mm-hmm.
I am really glad that they've finally decided to allow Andrade to speak for himself.
Yes. I mean, just because of his English, the cadence that he uses makes it even more menacing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, the same with Shida. Just let her talk, and you can hear the English just steadily gets a little better.
Mm-hmm. But overall, what do you think these two, Malachi Black and Andrade, what is their ceiling in AEW? Are we talking world championship level for both of them? 'Cause, at least for me, I believe both of them could reach those heights.
I
think it's more...
they could. I don't know if they will.
If I were to start talking about that one, it would bleed into my future predictions.
I agree they could. I don't know if they will. I just think on the face of it, like I think Andrade would maybe be more likely. Again, I don't know. Like, I think that they can do a lot of stuff. And it would be interesting since they have an alliance, them as a tag team eventually.
Yes, we're still in this. We are unsure of what their relationship is outside of Malachi Black's wife was Andrade's manager at one point. But other than that, we haven't really solidified on what their kayfabe relationship would be.
Not that they both hate Cody.
Yeah, but I mean, both of them are. Andrade is younger. Andrade is only 32, and Tommy End, he is 36. So they still have a good amount of time. Andrade especially. So I mean, it might not be within the next year or two, but I would 3-4 years from now, Andrade or Malachi, I think could be definitely in that top tier. Yeah, I'm curious how it goes, but if they continue to put in the performances that they've had, I think we could be seeing future world champions between the two of these two. Nothing else on those two?
No.
All right.
Let's take it home.
Let's talk about the three major signings in a row. Let's start with, we'll kind of run it backwards. No, actually, well, two of them were on the same night. So Adam Cole turning down the money from WWE after taking an extension to finish out a program with Kyle O'Reilly on NXT, comes out as to face down the Elite. But no, he is not. He is joining the Elite. He super kicks Jungle Boy in the face, and we have heel Adam Cole. And I mean, it's Adam Cole, baby. I mean, what else is there to say? I think that was one of the biggest look forwards to somebody coming in that we knew would be coming in way ahead of time.
Yeah,
we didn't know he was coming in that night or in that spot,
right?
Right.
Because Kenny was giving that promo, and he's like, who else is there? Everybody else is either retired, I've beaten them, or they're dead. And the crowd starts chanting yes, 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 and everybody's expecting, like, this is where Bryan Danielson comes out. And of course, it's not. It's where Adam Cole comes out, because in the BTE universe, the Young Bucks killed Adam Cole. So that's where the reference to they're dead. And it's like, all right, so Adam Cole is going to feud with Kenny Omega, but nope, swerve again. And then later in the night is when we did get Bryan Danielson
5 minutes later.
Yeah, but it was one of those things that people knew it was happening, they just didn't know it was happening right that minute.
Yes, and you go back and look at it and you watch it over and you're like, oh, Adam Cole came out of the heel tunnel. That should have given it away right there. But I didn't notice that until after.
But
I'm like,
they keep
oh, wait a minute.
flipping which one's the heel and which one's the face tunnel, because it's dependent upon where commentary sits.
Yeah. That's all right. Thoughts on Adam Cole from Dave here?
Not surprised. I'm not surprised at all that he came. It's a matter of time. Like, everyone already knows what WWE is. And why would you not want to go and hang out, work, and get paid with your friends? I'm all about it. And I don't want to say the words Mount Rushmore, but a couple more months. Just saying.
A certain somebody did tweet out the GPS coordinates to Mount Rushmore when it was mentioned that his contract was expiring.
Yes.
I love it. Love it.
Yeah, there are a few guys that you just know are watching their friends and just counting down the days in the calendar. And I think definitely, like, with on this time next year, we'll be talking about the AEW arrivals of Kevin Steen and Kyle O'Reilly.
And hopefully soon after that, El Generico.
Yes. El Generico returns from the dead.
Yeah. Then another, on that same night, Bryan Danielson, he was on WrestleMania this year, multi-time WWE World Champ, and he
main evented WrestleMania this year.
Yeah, and says no, turns down the money, and decides I'm going to AEW instead.
And he's amazing, and like, for all the love about Punk, and Punk is great. I am such a huge Bryan Danielson fan that, like, him coming back and being the American Dragon again has been the highlight of the year for me.
Yes.
He's too good. He's too good.
He's too good?
We don't deserve him.
And I just want to say that I'm personally really glad that he left WWE, because, yeah, huge fan. And once I stopped watching WWE, like, one of the things that I missed the most was watching Daniel Bryan / Bryan Danielson. Mm-hmm. Especially, like, knowing that, like, he had to retire for health reasons and then got some really good medical treatments and was able to come out of retirement and, still perform at this top level. But at the same time, like, do I worry about his health a little bit? Yeah. Like, do I worry about Sting's health? Because remember, Sting's very brief run in WWE when he was fighting for the Universal title, got buckle bombed, and then it did something to his back, and he had to retire. So seeing these guys that were able to get medical treatments that aren't normally available to come out of retirement to do the thing that they love. I just don't want to see them die doing the thing that they love.
Yeah, I do not need to see Bryan Danielson ever do a diving headbutt ever again. Or take a pile driver, or do a back suplex off the top rope.
Or get a indie taker, or a Meltzer driver, or a Meltzer taker, or an indie Meltzer driver supreme slam dunk 3000.
Right, exactly. But where does Bryan Danielson go? Does he make it all the way to AEW World Champ? Is he the first?
I think he could.
Yeah.
I seriously think he could. And the Eliminator tournament final, that final is at Full Gear.
Mm-hmm.
They just say that the winner receives a future match. They don't say when that future match comes. They don't say whether or not the winner of the Eliminator tournament can invoke their match immediately.
I'm going to think it's going to be at Winter is Coming. If they do Winter is Coming.
Probably. But wouldn't it be amazing? And I know, Eric, we touched on this on the last review or one of the most recent reviews. Wouldn't it be amazing if Hangman wins the World Championship only to then be cashed in on by whoever wins the Eliminator tournament to then come out and then beat him in 5 seconds?
No.
And Tony Khan take it away.
I'm gonna mute this guy.
I think you're really you're throwing gas on the fire on that one. All right, and the last big debut we're going to talk about, obviously CM Punk, the worst kept secret ever of somebody going to debut on purpose.
Wait, that was supposed to be a secret?
He comes out, crazy response, big TV numbers. Everybody's going nuts. I even saw videos of people watching it on their phone while they were in the building watching SmackDown, which was hilarious. They were streaming Rampage while in the building watching the dark match after SmackDown.
That is great.
Yes. So, I mean, CM Punk...
I also was half expecting, because, again, the worst kept secret ever. The show kicks off, the crowd's chanting CM Punk, Cult of Personality hits.
MJF walks out. I was
half expecting for MJF to walk out, and then, the building just collapses from all the rioting that would happen, and then they didn't get to see CM Punk come out and beat MJF's ass for trying to troll everybody. But, yeah.
But
it was great. Grown men cried. There's nothing wrong with that.
So CM Punk comes back after 7 years. Really he had one masked appearance that I know of. Probably others that we don't know of.
Allegedly.
He comes back. Has his first match with Darby Allin at All Out. Personally, I didn't think the match was that good. It was okay. I think the match order did not help because they had to follow that crazy cage match with the Lucha Bros and the Bucks. They weren't the immediate follow, but they still had to follow it, which probably did not help. And there was some other.
I'm wondering if this is one of the things of people having too high of expectations on, like what he's able to do. And that, well, he had all of these, like really good matches 15 years ago. Why is he not doing that same stuff now? Well, like he's got some ring rust, and then whatever health problems he had that made him retire in the first place. Whether those injuries be physical or mental, like they're still injuries. They still need to be healed and treated properly. And like he even touched a little bit on that in one of the promos that he gave of like, I had to leave the place that made me sick.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's in a place that he knows is going to, like treat him good, let him do whatever, he needs to do if he ever does wind up, getting injured or whatever. But yeah, like even a bad CM Punk match is still like pizza. It's still good.
Okay. So far, I've just thought they've been all right. Just like nothing blow away yet. I'm hoping Kingston and Punk bring that up.
I think Kingston and Punk will be a really good match.
Yeah.
His first match against Darby Allin, like I've yet to see what I would consider to be a really good Darby Allin match. That's not to say that Darby Allin is a bad wrestler, but just like the booking of all of his matches when he wins is basically the same, where he gets thrown around for 80% of the match. Luckily moves out of the way. His opponent hurts themselves, then he gets like 2 or 3 offensive moves and wins.
All right. Trae, anything you want to touch on with CM Punk before we move on to our predictions for next year?
Pretty well said my piece about Punk on other shows that we've done. I think he's I think that people like maybe don't they don't remember the kind of wrestler that Punk really was, so they have different expectations. Like he was always more of a thinking wrestler than like a crazy work rate guy. He worked with a lot of crazy work rate guys and was, great working with them. And he's older and he's a lot more technical. He's a lot more, and you can see it. Like the very first spot from the Darby match was the Bret Hart 1, 2, 3 Kid spot from that Raw match in like '94. Like he's slowed down a lot. He's approaching things a lot more technical now than I think a lot of people have expected. I think it's been pretty good stuff.
All right, cool. All right, let's go on to predictions, and I'll start with Dave because I know he needs to fly out of here. So if he gives them, and he can bail as soon as he needs to.
I appreciate it. I'm gonna go with the AW World Champ. I'm gonna throw out Miro. TNT Andrade. Women's, I'm gonna go with the long shot undercard. I'm gonna say Layla Hirsch. I am a huge fan of Layla Hirsch. I want to see her do well. Tag team, I think FTR. What am I missing here? So TBS, this is my controversial one. I'm trying not to dig into my bias. I don't see how you can walk away from the TBS tournament with an undefeated Jade Cargill presented the way she is, getting an L. At least not up to the final bout. I think it's going to be a hard sell. Like, personally, do I think she deserves to be the TBS tournament right now? No. But you're going to ruin the presentation of an undefeated woman if she loses at the end of a tournament. So I think AEW Women's Champion at the end of this is going to be... Actually, I'm going to backtrack. I'll say, in a year, Layla Hirsch, TBS Champion, Ruby Soho, Women's Champion.
Okay, so TBS in a year from now. So we're going for October 1st because that's the anniversary that we should be doing it. TBS is going to be Layla, and women is going to be Ruby.
Yes, and I have one more. This is not a title thing.
Okay.
In the next year, some people are gonna hate this. You're gonna see an angle that includes Malachi Black, Cody Rhodes, and Wyndham Rotunda.
Ooh, angle with Cody, Black, and Wyndham. Okay. Interesting.
Okay.
How about give us our, if it happens, trios champions?
Jurassic Express.
Jurassic Express. All right.
Well, who wins the Dynamite Diamond Ring? Because that's coming up in like a month.
MJF. And I think on year 4 of it, that's when you can start to build up a baby face to finally take it away from MJF. But I think 3 in a row.
I think we're gonna have a split between Wardlow and MJF that comes to a head, and Wardlow walks away with the ring this year.
I'd be okay with that.
So Darryl putting down on the ring. Wardlow for the ring. All right. Cool.
It still doesn't really mean anything,
right?
As far as we know, but it's there.
So Darryl, why don't we get yours? World champion, October 1st. Who's going to be world champion?
October 1st of next year. I've got to go with the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson.
All right. Women's world.
And he takes it off of Hangman.
That'd be interesting.
The women's champion 1 year from now. Let's go with Thunder Rosa.
TNT champion.
The TNT champion. I'm going to go with Miro on his second run after he has been fully redeemed and murders Sammy Guevara.
TBS champion.
Metaphorically, of course. TBS champion, I think, will be on either the second or third champion in 1 year. I'm going to say Chris Statlander.
That's a good one. And tag champions. I think this is the last one, right? Yep.
Tag champs. Here's a caveat of if both of the guys from Varsity Blondes are healthy, they will take the titles next summer. If they are not healthy, I'll go with here's my long shot prediction. Men of the year.
That's actually probably not a bad prediction. That's actually probably a pretty good one. And theoretical trios.
Theoretical trios, I'm going with SuperClick.
SuperClick. All right. All right, let's go on to Trae.
Or the full Mount Rushmore using the Freebird rule.
Okay. Trae. We'll start with the Dynamite Diamond Ring, and then we'll work back down.
Oh, I'm just gonna throw something out there out of left field. John Silver.
John Silver for the ring.
Ooh, Johnny Hungy.
Yeah, exactly, Johnny Hungy.
World champion. Men's world
MJF.
champion. MJF.
I have had a long-term idea for like the past, I don't know, year or more, and I'm still holding out that this is what's going to happen. I think that MJF will beat Hangman for the title, and I think that he will lose the title to Babyface Wardlow.
Alrighty. I'm gonna put that down to see where it goes. Babyface Wardlow. Women's world title.
Women's World Championship, I will say, I don't know, Thunder Rosa.
Rosa. TNT champ.
TNT, I'm going to say, this is one that I think would really be awesome. Bryan Danielson.
TBS.
I'll say Ruby Soho.
And theoretical trios.
I'm sticking to my guns, Death Triangle.
Oh, and actual tag. Tag,
Young Bucks. I'm going to say Young Bucks.
Bucks get it back. All right.
Yeah.
I'll run down Caleb's here, and then I'll give mine. Caleb said world champion would be Hangman winning at Full Gear here, and next summer he drops it to Miro. So he has Miro for world champion. Actually, Dave does too. He has Serena Deeb for women's title. Tag titles, Adam Cole and Kevin Steen. And then he is doubling down on Jungle Boy for the TNT Championship.
And then Rita's TBS.
He doesn't have a TBS, did he? Oh, Anna J.
Yes, he does.
Anna
I'm
J
looking
for
at it right now.
Anna J for TBS. Anna J. I didn't copy that one. Whoops. All right, so I guess I will run it down. I am with you that Wardlow is getting the ring. For the world title, I'm with Trae on this one. I was pretty sure that MJF would be the next one after Hangman, so I'm gonna stick with that pick even now. Though for some reason I think it might be a long shot, but that's okay. Women's world champ this time next year. I'm not sure where they're going to go. I think they're going to go Thunder Rosa next, but I don't think she'll be champion come October 1st. But I don't know who she would lose it to. I can't think of a good heel that she would lose it to. I'm not sure. I'll come back to that. I got TBS. TBS, I'm going to say, is going to be Ty Conti. Tag champion.
Can I just say that I'm glad you're writing all of these down this time?
Yeah, so I don't have to go back and listen.
So that you don't have to go back and listen to 3 hours.
Tag champs is really up in the air. Lucha Bros have it now. I think FTR, they're not going to take it this time, but I think FTR is going to be the ones to take it off Lucha Bros. I think FTR is going to be the champions come this time next year, even though they're going to lose coming up. They're going to circle back sometime mid to late summer. Could be like all out. I think that's probably when they'll take them. What else do I got left here? TNT title. I'm going to say it's going to be a heel Cody Rhodes on his third reign. And who do I got left here? World MJF, women's, TBS, TNT, tag, FTR. So women's title is the only one I need here. Oh, jeez.
Hypothetical trios.
You know, there is
trios.
a fantastic heel woman who has a history of beating Thunder Rosa for championships, and that is Serena Deeb.
I just when you started saying that, I'm like, oh wait, I think he's right. I'm going with Serena Deeb on that one because I think Rose is going to take it first, but I think Deeb would take it after that. And then theoretical trios, it's toss up between SuperClick and Jurassic Express.
But will it be Jurassic Express as we know them, or will it be Christian with Jurassic Express and Marco Stunt still there as sort of like the cheerleader.
I think that would be better.
That would probably be better. I'm trying to look. So, babyface.
Although I do love when Luchasaurus uses Marco as a weapon.
Too many heels in my thing, so I'm going Jurassic Express for trios, because it would be a whole lot of heels holding the gold if all of these were correct. So that's what I'm going with. I think that's everybody. So we will see how this plays out. Does anybody have any weird predictions like Dave did that there's going to be an angle between Cody, Malachi Black, and Wyndham Rotunda?
That would be weird.
That would be weird.
I'm also thinking like another sort of long shot hypothetical for trios would be just like pick any 3 members from Dark Order as a face team.
Long shot trio, yeah. Dark Order. Got it. We'll see how that goes.
I do think that at some point we will have a match between Tully and Arn. I just hope that it's not a Glock on a pole match.
I hope that it is a Glock on a pole match.
Ever since Arn gave that promo about, if I get carjacked, I pull out my Glock. Every time he's been on TV, the crowd has been chanting, "Get the Glock." But yeah, like, him and Tully are going to come to blows at some point.
There will be
Pinnacle will fall apart.
Pinnacle will fall apart? Well,
after Wardlow and MJF start beefing, unless MJF just gets kicked, or Wardlow gets kicked out, and then the Pinnacle is like 4 guys plus Tully.
And Andrade, because they got a weird relationship now.
Oh, yeah. I could see Andrade joining the Pinnacle to keep it a 5-man.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I'm going to put that down with me. Eric Andrade joins Pinnacle after Wardlow tossed.
Here's a question. Not so much me making a prediction. Does Jericho move to more like full-time commentary?
I don't think so.
Nah.
I think he stays an active competitor.
I will say that Kenta will appear on AEW as IWGP US Heavyweight Champion to shoot an angle for a title match against an AEW wrestler.
Any AEW wrestler not named John Moxley.
I think a feeling we might finally get Kenta and CM Punk. But I don't know. Hopefully this is the year that people can start going back and forth to Japan more easily, but we shall see.
All right, so here's my prediction, though I'm not sure where it's going to take place. And it doesn't matter if it's either promotion. But Kenny Omega is going to have a match with Kota Ibushi.
All right.
Omega versus Ibushi. Don't know where if it's going to happen.
Title versus title match.
That's what I wanted. But now I don't think he's going to have the title. Like, I wanted Kenny Omega to keep the title to Wrestle Kingdom and defend title for title at Wrestle Kingdom. But it's not going to happen. They're going to have a match, but I don't know why.
And if it doesn't happen in 2022, I will say that it will happen in 2022 or 2023. That we will get Kenny Omega, Kazuchika Okada 5, and that will be the main event of a joint New Japan AEW show at Madison Square Garden.
And a joint show. Maybe 2023, though. Okay. Any outside picks? We got a few, so Dave, you got any more outside picks that you want to throw out there?
So much an outside pick. I just want to say and shout out to a very underutilized guy, chair fetish Sean Spears.
Yes.
Wait, what?
Do you,
He gave a shout out to Sean Spears' chair fetish.
Yeah, I
Chair
got
fetish Sean Spears.
I got that. Okay.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I just want to see more of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
More Sean Spears.
Here's an outside pick. We have seen the NWA Women's Champion on AEW television. I think that we will see the NWA Men's World Champion at an AEW show at least once in the next year.
All right. Sounds good.
I hope it's Trevor Murdoch. I hope it's still Trevor Murdoch.
All right. Well, I mean, there's still a lot of topics kind of left on the table, but I mean that pretty much covers the big stuff. So we will see how this plays out next year. Hopefully, everybody can come back again next year, and we'll try to get it. We'll try to plan so we get this thing done a little earlier. It's been a weird year. So
CM Punk heel turn.
CM Punk heel turn.
Will we get a CM Punk heel turn?
Maybe.
I think he totally could have turned heel during that promo he was giving about Moxley, and it would have completely fit. Of like, I never had to go to rehab because I'm straight edge. That means I'm better than you.
Too cheap.
It would have been cheap. I think people would have seen through that one. All right, let's wrap it up here. We did not meet last year's length, but you know, it is what it is. Thanks everybody for joining me. Dave, thanks for joining. Hopefully we can get you back for hopefully for Full Gear, maybe. Sure. And Caleb, even though he's already left, good to see him back. Darryl, thanks for joining me. I'm sure you're going to be back with me later this week anyways for AEW. And Trae, we're going to have to talk some New Japan Power Struggle because Kevin Kelly got the English commentary for Power Struggle up today. So
yep, I started it. I've seen like the first 3 matches.
Cool.
So we'll get there soon.
We'll talk about that hopefully on Tuesday if that works out for you.
Yeah, on that subject, wrestleism.substack.com, I actually did, this was the 10th anniversary of Power Struggle, so I did a review looking back at the first Power Struggle from 2011. So check that out.
What was the main event of that show?
Hiroshi Tanahashi and Toru Yano in what was, believe it or not, Yano's one and only IWGP Heavyweight title match.
Alrighty. So thanks all you guys for joining me. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. If you're listening as a podcast, we do this show live on Twitch and
hold on, Eric,
yep.
But before you give the sign off, can we just look back and think of how strange it is that when All In was happening, just over 3 years ago, that ROH was very heavily involved in helping the Bucks put that show together, and now it looks like ROH might be completely going out of business. They released everybody from their contract, said that there's no non-compete. The parent company saying like, we'll reevaluate in the first quarter and possibly have a show in April. So just sort of a little strange that a completely new company in 2 years seems to have already taken the place that it took ROH like 15 years to get to.
There you go. There's that. So thanks everybody for watching and listening. You can get this podcast live on Twitch and on YouTube, and follow the links in the show notes to all of the co-hosts as well. So for Dave, Darryl, Caleb, and Trae, my name's Eric. You've been watching and listening to That's Wrestling. See you later, guys.
Bye.